Welcome back. This section is planning our website. It is the most fundamental step of the whole process, and hope that you're with me along the way. Most people buy a domain name and then build their website on the fly as they go. This can lead to a total disaster, rework, and waste of time. Some of the most fluid websites you've come across are that way because they're planned well. The following topics will be covered in the planning portion of our website to avoid some of these disasters. First of all, in website planning, we're going to be talking about what do you want to accomplish? What type of website are you wanting to build? A full e-commerce website, a blog site, a brand details site? What kind of pages are we going to want on that? Basically, we'll be covering everything that you can do for even for future websites, any which way you need. Sky's the limit, truly. Domain name research, search, and acquisition of domains. We're going to be covering that as well. You need to find your www address of the internet, if you will. And yes, you have to pay for it, but fear not, the prices are nominal for that. We just want to make sure that your name is memorable and relevant. We'll also be looking for a hosting solution and acquiring a host server. This is where your website will sit in its universe. A website has files just like on your computer, and it needs a headquarters, if you will, to serve up pages to your customer wherever they are. Finally, we'll be acquiring the security that we need to protect your customer's information and meet some of the regulatory requirements around offering payment options on your website. All right, everybody. Get out your pens because this is where it gets into the nitty-gritty. We're going to create the master plan, the secret master plan. This basically starts on a drawing board. If you want your site to be simple and thought through, you need to have an idea what you want to see, what you want your customers to feel, and how you want your brand to be represented. You don't want your fishing tackle brand, for instance, to be represented by a site that looks like an advertisement for race cars. The best thing that you need to take away from this is that you do not do your planning on the fly. You'll miss something, and it can lead to the waste of time and rework, and sometimes even just total disaster. You're going to want to delete everything and start from scratch. We don't want that. In the IT industry, we call this technical debt. It's a very good example for poor planning and expensive rework is, for instance, like in the Star Wars Rogue One movie, where the direction of the director was clearly different than what the organization itself wanted. Millions of dollars were spent on refilming scenes. So let's just make sure our website is what the customer and you want to see. So all websites have similar considerations when you're thinking about it. It's sort of the recipe or the makeup of every website that we need to consider when we're planning it, okay? So the first one is your domain name. And that sort of key focus area that will drive all the keywords and content to your website. So that will be either a brand base. So if you just want to, like Microsoft is an example of a brand name, or do you want a domain like internetsoftware.com, right? Which would be more of what it is versus a brand name. The look and feel of your website, we're going to want to think about, okay, how do we want our header to look? So the top of our website. How about the footer, which is the bottom with usually all the legal kind of stuff at the bottom? Our main menu and the interface and how that looks to your customers. What sort of colors and fonts, like the typography that we want to use. That's all part of the user experience that every website has. Media, so logos, the favicons, which are the little tiny icons that show up at the very top of your browser. Some images, some stock images, or maybe even you shot some pictures yourself. What kind of banners, rotators, and those other things. We're also going to talk about some static pages. Okay, so things like your home page, which is the very first page everybody goes to, about us page, contact us page. Maybe you have some special landing pages and things like that. There's all common ones that are across every website, so we'll be talking about those. Any date-driven content, these are dynamic pages. So blogs, products, for example, is dynamic content because they can change. They can change at any time, and so you want them to be dynamic. We also have things like e-commerce pages commonly, which are a cart page, a page where people go to check out when they're checking out their, and then of course then orders. That's when they finally made their order, or maybe they've already paid for an order and they want to see some history. So those are some common e-commerce pages that are on websites. Finally, some account management. Now this is customer account management. So this is where they go to update their address, maybe change their password on your site, those kind of things. Some of this, keep in mind, are already pre-built. You don't have to build any of them. Most of the work that you're going to be doing is going to be around like the dynamic pages, the static pages, maybe some media, and of course the look and feel around the colors and the fonts. Okay. There's also commonly is optional programs and plugins. These don't come default with what we're going to be using, but they can be added in very easily onto the website. We'll be showing you how to do that. It's very, very easy. And of course, what's common to a lot of websites is things like analytics. How is your website performing in the world? How many people are coming to your website? SEO, which is search engine optimization. How well is your website being seen by search engines like Google or MSN or Yahoo and things like that? And how high up is it on their search list when people are searching for certain words? Of course, then the metadata of your website, and that's just like the identification data of your website. It tells the internet, tells the people what your website's about. So what are you going to do? What type of websites are you wanting to build? And the reason I'm asking this is you need to choose what you intend to do and what you want to drive. And of course, that should flow into what domain you're going to choose, what templates you're going to choose, and what color schemes you're going to choose. Okay, it sounds complicated. It's really not. You just got to have this sort of one thing that you want to do. Okay, so just keep in mind during this course, after each section, there might be some added material, some links and things like that. So please feel free to follow through with those links on the bottom of each of the section pages. And that'll help you kind of keep up to date on what we're doing or where we're going, because I will be recommending websites and things like that. And so you don't have to worry about pausing the video and typing them in. You can always just click on them in each section. So while this particular course does not cover marketing itself, we do need to have some considerations around marketing as we have to move forward to prevent rework in the future. Please ensure you have answered as much as possible. And this is an example here of some questions to ask yourself. We're going to be revisiting these in the future as we're building out this site, but this is a great start to getting your website planned out on how you want it and some of the things you're going to be, themes and subjects you're going to be talking about. So as we go through this, you'll look to see that there's a domain name, and brand market. This is kind of your key questions to ask around what it is that you're looking for. Now, you might not have a domain name yet, but you might have a brand name, and that might give you some ideas around, well, maybe you can look for brand name, domain name, or maybe you're going to target the market in your domain name. So instead of your brand name being Joe's Tackle, you're going to look at a brand name where it's the market of tackle. So fishingtackle.com instead. So that's kind of what we're thinking about around here. Here's the keywords of interest. We're going to talk about that a little bit more on what sort of keywords work and things like that for your website. A logo. Have we thought about a logo and how do we get one? What if you know graphic design? Hey, great, you can build it yourself, but how do you acquire a logo if you don't know anything like that? Okay, do you have a slogan for your website? That might also help with logo development. So this is our part of branding and branding your website. So the hope is, hey, you already have one. You have a brand, you have a product already, and you want to market it. But if you don't, that's fine. This is going to help with that as well. Color schemes on our website. So here's some questions around color schemes. These are hex numbers. So I have a link that'll be in the section that'll show you a color website to go to. We're probably going to be going to that when we actually do the development of the site to show how you pick out some colors that are complementary to others, or maybe you have a color that's already in your logo and you want to use that as a base for the rest of your website. There's all kinds of different ways to do that. Also a short description. This kind of helps with how you want to market your site. Do you want it to be really professional, almost like it's a corporation website, or do you want it to be more fun and free, like it's it's a fun brand and things like that? So that'll help with that as well. Finally, fonts. We want to know about what kind of fonts appeal to people's eyes when they're on your website. Are you marketing a product that's sort of scary? Do you want a sort of a scary looking font? The one key thing to remember when we do get into that is fonts should be very easy to read no matter what. And so again, we're going to talk about that. We're going to write down some fonts that we like in a website so we can go to get good fonts. Google has a really good font set that you can use for your website. It's free, and the link is in the below section. Here's some other questions. Feel free to just pause the video, go through them. We've already talked about some of these things, and maybe some questions that you want to have answered before you get into developing your website. In the next section, we're going to be talking about planning out or mapping out our website.